What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F123 League Racing, and we are here for round number 10 of Season 3 of the Streamers and Co VRL, and we are going to be at the Australian Grand Prix this time out. It's a sprint weekend, 2 races, 2 opportunities to score points, 2 chances to close the gap to Jermaine in the driver's standings. He currently sits, I believe, 9 points ahead of me in the standings, so I'm going to need a few big weekends in these last few rounds to catch up to him. Only 3 more rounds to go now, including this one. Australia, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi will be the races. So yeah, this is probably my strongest of the bunch, I would say, and for that reason I'm really hoping that we can get a good result here, and more than anything just finish a number of positions ahead of Jermaine if we can. And of course things are going to be starting off here in qualifying, where we are going to be on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and it is going to be a pretty decent lap here, a 1:18.6 as we cross the line, and that currently puts me P8. However, I think only 8 people have actually gone so far, so I'm definitely going to need to get some improvement on that lap time if I want any chance of getting amongst the faster drivers who are on show here today. You can see I'm currently down in 14th off the back of that lap, and we have managed to find a bit of improvement on our second flying lap, but I still left quite a lot on the table. We only move up 1 position there, up into 13th, ahead of Jermaine, which is nice, but ultimately there's no points for 13th, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to find a bit more improvement on my final flying lap here. As you can see at the moment, I'm about 1 or 2 tenths up as we make our way into turns number 9 and 10. I actually lose a bit of time through there, lose about a tenth or so, I think because I turned in slightly later than I was hoping for. So probably I could have made up more time than I did through there. But either way, as we make our way through the final few corners, now here is where the big time saves are. This is where I kind of was classically poor in the last few laps before this. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to find a big improvement. And you can see we have done a couple tenths gained in this final sector. We're going to be improving by about 5 tenths of a second across the line, and it will be good enough for a 1:17.8. But crucially, where is this going to put us as the qualifying draws to a close? You can see Dustin's just done a 1:16.9 there, and at the end of the qualifying, this will be good enough for P11. So not quite in the top 10, but certainly a workable position. It's probably my average qualifying in the Streamers and Co P11. I feel like I'm right on the fringes of the top 10, but never quite in the top 10. It was Dustin who ended up getting pole there, followed by Bjarni. Illyrian in his first race in the league puts that Williams P3. It's Lewis P4, Alex in P5, Ryan P6, Anto 7th, Ollie 8th, Phil 9th, and in 10th is Hayden in the Mercedes, and then it's myself, RC, KK, J-Man, Ryan H, Jermaine, and Mike completing the rest of the standings there. So it is going to be P16 for Jermaine there, starting from 16th, myself starting from 11th. This gives me an absolutely fantastic chance to hopefully outscore him here and yeah, get a good haul of points if we can make our way up a few positions. Obviously the sprint is going to be a little bit harder to score points because we have to make our way all the way up into 8th place to even score 1 point here today. We are going to be going on a soft compound set of tyres to the end of the race. Only 7 laps of course, so that is going to be not too hard to go the whole way on the softs, but we'll see what we can do as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and we've had a decent getaway here by the looks of things, especially compared to Phil here on the medium compound tyres. He's had quite a slow getaway. We're going to try and go around the outside of him at turn 1, see if we can get ahead of Hayden there as well, who was held up momentarily. And you can see indeed we have made our way up into P9 here off the start, and now we're going to see if we can close down the likes of Ollie, Anto and Ryan here. Going to look to the inside of the corner, brake just a fraction too late, and we end up having to go over the curb, and as a result we get caught up in a bit of contact there with Hayden, and that has pushed us down all the way into P12. Meanwhile, Jermaine has managed to have a very clean start there compared to a few people who got caught up in some lap 1 contact. And as a result, he's managed to make his way up into P11 off the start here. So I'm going to have to try and close him down nice and quickly if we can. But we don't want to get too many more of those track limits warnings, otherwise we are going to be in a bit of danger here. You can see I'm right on the back of him now with the slipstream as well. But Jermaine may be burning a bit more battery than me, trying to break away. But that's fine, you know. Let him burn his battery and we'll reel him in later on down the line. You can see Phil and Hayden as well just ahead, going at it a little bit. Hayden trying to get up ahead of Phil into P9. But don't forget, nothing here is for points at the moment. The final points position currently, I believe, is occupied by Ryan McLean in the McLaren in 8th. I'm not 100% sure if that's him or... Actually, no, it's Anto, my teammate, in the Alpine there. Hayden went deep into the penultimate corner there, and as a result he's actually managed to push Jermaine wide, the two teammates going wheel to wheel there, and that's caused a bit of a problem there for Jermaine. We're now going to try and capitalise it on and get ahead of him if we can. Wheel to wheel into the first corner, and ultimately Jermaine there just did not leave me enough room, makes a bit of contact with me and pushes me over the corner. We did still make the corner, but yeah, a bit of contact there from Jermaine, and a virtual safety car has been deployed due to a DNF from J-Man into turn 1. Maybe he's binned it or something like that, but in any case, there will be a VSC, and the race is going to be completely neutralised, so we're going to have to make sure we can try and get the jump on Jermaine once the restart happens here. Obviously, we can't overtake him, and you can see he's actually broken away from me quite a lot here, and then the virtual safety car ends, and Jermaine is like 1 second up the road from me, so we've kind of been caught napping a little bit here, and I don't think we're going to be in his DRS range by the time that the DRS gets enabled at the start of lap 3. You can see that he's had a better run through 9 and 10 than me. I'm going to try and close him down, but I think he's burning the battery, trying to get out of that DRS range, and as a result we are going to be down in P12. Maybe ahead of Hayden here though, because he's had a bit of a moment there into what I believe is turn 12, and yeah, we've gotten ahead of one of the Mercedes, but he's held me up a little bit there as well. Crucially, I had to go to the inside of him to avoid just going into the back of him or something like that, and that means that I've lost about 4 tenths to Jermaine as a result of that, which means that Jermaine is very comfortably out of my DRS range now, and we're actually going to be coming potentially under threat from Hayden, not in this particular moment because the DRS hasn't been enabled just yet, and by the time we make our way onto lap 4 you can see Hayden completely out of the picture, actually retired from the session, and that has brought out a safety car, which isn't a moment too soon quite frankly, because Ryan Harris was right on the verge of closing us down here, so yeah, we're quite lucky to have that safety car called when it was, and he's actually pitted for another set of tyres, Ryan Harris, so maybe he'll be a threat towards the end. Only went back a few positions as a result of that. We'll see whether he can make up the positions. Meanwhile, I'm now right on the back of Jermaine again, and we're once again presented an opportunity to try and close him down. I have to take it this time. I don't want to give Jermaine an inch when it comes to the Grand Prix. Do I think either of us is going to score points here in this sprint? No, I don't. But as I have a big moment there through turn 1, we are maybe going to have to fall away from him a little bit here. But yeah, no points for either of the two of us, but I still obviously want to finish ahead of him to reduce the likelihood of him scoring points in the race tomorrow. He'll be starting in a point scoring position in the race. Meanwhile, the yellow flag in front, someone's had a moment. It's Alex in the Ferrari from what I can only assume was probably one of the top positions in the race. Not sure whether it was the lead or P2 or P3, but you know, he always has a strong position in the race, but Alex will be not scoring any points here in the sprint. That will be critical for his championship fight with Lewis. Meanwhile, Ryan Harris, I said that he might be a factor towards the end of the sprint here after he boxed onto a new set of soft compound tyres, and indeed he's proven to be exactly that. But he's had a big moment out of turn 10, and well, I could have capitalised on that, but unfortunately I was still putting the power down myself, didn't want to spin it, so I ended up being caught behind him. We absolutely could have out-tractioned him if not for that, but he has pushed us a little bit wide there. I think it's fair hard racing from Ryan, and he is going to finish ahead of us. Ultimately, no points will be scored on this occasion for him, and Jermaine will be finishing P9 there. It's Dustin who wins the sprint, and we're going to round the final corner now and come to the line. We will finish in P11 just ahead of Alex, who made a bit of a comeback towards the end there on me, but ultimately not enough to even get himself back ahead of me. He finishes P12, and to get himself back into the championship fight now is going to take an absolutely huge task from Alex. In terms of the way the penalties are applied in this league, they are reviewed all after both the sprint and the race, so ultimately the grid won't change, but there were a couple penalties applied at the end of the sprint there. One for Jermaine for that incident between me and him on turn 1 of lap 2, and Ryan also had a lap 1 incident that he got a 5-second penalty for, so that actually promoted me to P9 in the end here in the race. Ultimately that doesn't actually make a change to whether I score points or not, but it does mean that technically I finished ahead of Jermaine in the classification here, and Jermaine demoted to P11 in the sprint classification. But in any case, it was Dustin from Lewis from, I don't even know who finished P3 there. I think it was Ryan McLean actually. So yeah, a good result for all three of those guys, and hopefully we'll be able to see some more good racing in the race itself as we get ready to go here. Going to be starting on a set of soft compound tyres. Going to adjust the strategy slightly to pit one lap earlier than planned. I think 8 and 12 is a bit more feasible than 9 and 11. I'm sure a few people will probably opt to pit on lap 9 instead, and hopefully we'll be able to pull a bit of an undercut on those guys if they do choose to do exactly that. But as we make our way to the start of the race now, we have to make sure we can get a good reaction compared to these medium runners like Ryan Harris here as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and unfortunately I think Ryan has had a slightly faster getaway than me. He just managed to see the lights go out a little bit faster, and as a result we're not going to be making up too many positions off the start. But actually there's a big incident there between Ollie and Ryan. Jermaine was off the track, Illyrian off the track, and unfortunately ghosted, otherwise that would have been GG for me, and Phil got caught up in that a little bit as well, so we managed to get ahead of him. He started on the hard compound tyres here. So it is now myself up, 4 positions off the start there ahead of all of those guys I was talking about. Jermaine just completely outbraked himself or something off of the first corner. I think he's now all the way down in P16. So yeah, very difficult start for Jermaine, but I absolutely love to see it as somebody who's actively trying to finish ahead of him in the standings. Meanwhile, here comes Alex, who started P12, already made his way up 5 positions off the start here, and he's up into P7. So basically a dream start for the Ferrari driver there. We now are going to just have to try and do what we can to keep Phil behind. He's on those hard compound tyres. I don't know what the strategy is for Phil here today, but I imagine he's going to plan on going long on those hard compound tyres, and then maybe gamble on that there'll be a safety car in sort of the last third of the race or something like that will enable him to box onto a set of softs at the very end and go to the end of the race on those soft compound tyres. Meanwhile, Alex putting a lot of pressure there on Ollie in front, and I wouldn't be surprised if Alex got ahead of him nice and quickly. You know, we've seen what Alex's pace is like in this season of Streamers and Co VRL. He has had so many good results, so many wins, so many fastest laps and podiums and all that kind of thing. So I would be very, very surprised if he doesn't get a good result here today. Meanwhile, we make our way onto lap 3 now, and you can see that Ollie and Alex have broken away quite significantly from me here, and I am all the way down in P8, 2 seconds behind Ollie now. So we're going to be coming under a little bit of pressure here potentially from the likes of Phil and Illyrian, who after that initial sort of chaos on lap 1 have managed to sort themselves out a little bit, and they're right here. Illyrian maybe getting ahead of Phil there, and well, maybe we'll be coming under a bit of pressure from him now as we get ready to get into the next DRS zone. Of course, 4 DRS zones around Australia, and because there's only 2 detection points. I've talked about this before in career mode videos before, but because there's only 2 detection points, it means that if they get ahead of you through one of those DRS zones, then they will get DRS for the next one to break away from you, and if they don't get ahead of you in the first one, they have another bite of the cherry for free, basically, to try and get ahead of you through the next one. And that's exactly what's happening here with Illyrian. He wasn't quite close enough through that first DRS zone, but through the next one, he's going to be more than enough ahead of me to make the move stick. He has a bit of a wobble there, but we go over the curb a little bit as well. So ultimately, nothing lost, nothing gained really through the corner, but Illyrian making his way up into P8, and we've been pushed down into P9 as a result of this, suddenly sitting on the fringes of the points. But fortunately for me, the only person who's really close to overtaking me right now is Phil. So I'd say we have a very, very good chance of holding on to at least a point here today, but obviously I would like a little bit more than that to break away from Jermaine in more than just a point or 2, because he is currently 9 points ahead of me in the driver's standings. So we're going to need a bit of a bigger result than a P9 or a P10 today, I think, in order to really maximise that. Now, as we make our way into lap 6, you can see the soft compound tyre started to go off a little bit. Illyrian has broken out of the DRS from me. We've gone defensive to the inside of the corner to try and make sure that Phil can't make the overtake here. It's worked a treat for us, actually. He's still 2 tenths behind me. Is he going to look for a move up the inside into turn 3? I think he is. Wheel to wheel we go through the next sequence of corners, and we're still wheel to wheel, in fact, as we go through the car park section of the Australian Grand Prix. But as we make our way through the next corner, Phil has the inside line, has the superior grip now. The tyres really starting to come in for him here, and yeah, we're just going to have to sort of settle behind him for the time being. But we'll see if we can stay with him with the DRS, and as we make our way through turns 9 and 10, you can see Phil there got a 3-second time penalty. Clearly he's been going off the track quite a lot here today, and well, we're going to have a pretty good chance of finishing ahead of him now, I would say. We're going to try and go for the overtake, but we don't really have any battery to do it with, so ultimately we have to back out of the move, and that's actually cost us quite a bit of time there to Phil. So yeah, we're going to close him down a bit more with the DRS here, but definitely not enough to make the overtake on him, and we're going to have to bide our time. We will be boxing at the end of this lap Phil, I wouldn't be surprised to see him stay out for another 6 laps yet. So hopefully we can pull off a bit of an undercut on him, and then hopefully at the end of the race his tyres won't be so strong compared to mine that he can easily catch me. Meanwhile, we are coming into the pit lane now. We're going to be going onto a set of medium compound tyres to the end of the race. A few other drivers coming in, including Ollie and Jermaine. And it's just me, or does it seem like Ollie is a lot closer to me all of a sudden than he was before the pit stop phase? It seemed like he maybe went a little bit slowly into the pit lane. I don't think he changed the front wing or anything, so I think he just had a slow entry into the pit lane, and as a result you can see that we are only a few tenths behind him now. We've had a few retirements from the race already in the form of Hayden and Ryan Harris, so down to just 15 runners in this race now, and yeah, 5 tenths is the gap to Ollie, so hopefully we can close down and get ahead of him nice and quickly, because I would dearly like to beat him, especially because he's been giving it the big one recently in the league Discord, talking about how he's going to beat me in the championship. Well, he can suck on this one as we make our way ahead of him up into P10 on lap 10, and we've gotten ahead of Ollie. Will he be beating me in the championship this season? I don't think so. He loves to talk a big game for somebody who only started racing in the championship a few races ago. Had a good result out in China, and not too bad result in Zandvoort as well. But here today in Australia, I will be exerting my dominance over the new driver in the league, and making my way up into the points once again. Still a few drivers yet to pit, including Phil, KK, and maybe a few more out in front as well. We are yet to see what is happening with regards to this, but I think I should be in a minimum of P8 once the rest of the drivers come in to the pit lane. Meanwhile, my teammate Anto has just come into the pit, so we'll see whether there is any sort of semblance of a gap starting to close, but I think probably I'm too far back from those guys who are pitting now to really make much of a difference. It was the likes of Lewis and Anto and Ryan that pitted, and you can see, yeah, I'm currently P9. I believe KK is pitted, and actually there's a safety car deployed here, which is because of KK. He's had a crash at turn 3, I believe, so yeah, he's out of the race, and there is a safety car out. So this is actually going to play really nicely into Phil's hands. He's yet to pit. He's basically goal hanged for a safety car here on those hard compound tyres, and he's got exactly what he wanted, so I'm sure he'll be very, very pleased with that. As everyone coming into the pits again, we basically have to do the same thing here. Going to be going onto a set of used compound tyres as Ollie makes contact with us and overtakes us, gets a bunch of penalties for that, which I don't think were fair penalties, but the contact was probably fair because he definitely did make contact with us there and overtook us into the pit lane, which you're also not allowed to do, so that's going to be another penalty for Ollie there. And all of a sudden, this battle that was going on between myself and the Red Bull driver is not really a battle at all, because he's just going to be absolutely shafted by all these penalties. He will probably get some of those removed because he got 6 seconds in one corner for track limits, which obviously is not ideal and not really fair on him. But as we make our way now onto lap 15, the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap, but yeah, still a little ways to go before we get there. And that's a front wing flying there. I believe that's Ollie just gone into the back of my teammate Anto there. So yeah, really this race is starting to unravel for the Red Bull driver. He came into the league, he really impressed on debut, but here today in Australia he's having an absolute mare, you would have to say, and this will promote us up at least one position. Meanwhile, with only 5 laps to go, there's actually a lot of drivers ahead of us. Ryan's got a lot of penalties, Anto's got a lot of penalties. There's a few drivers here with big penalties today, so we have a real opportunity to potentially finish quite high up if we can stick with these guys. Hopefully Ollie doesn't give us too much trouble with those 16 seconds worth of penalties that he now has. And as we make our way through the first corner, you can see I think Ollie with that front wing damage is going to be a bit of a rolling roadblock if we can't clear him nice and quickly, so I'm going to be burning battery basically the whole way on the run to turn 3, but he's sticking in here. We make a bit of contact with him there. He's made a bit more contact with Anto, and yeah, wheel to wheel with Ollie through turns 3 and 4, and in the end he actually manages to stay ahead of us. It's so frustrating, but ultimately he does go off the track and we manage to make the move stick on Ollie up into P9 now. And look who's reared his head down in P11 there. Jermaine has managed to make his way onto the fringes of the points, and he will be scoring points with Ollie's penalties all applied here. So all I can hope for is with that broken wing, Ollie starts to hold up Jermaine a little bit, because otherwise I think Jermaine could potentially make an argument for getting ahead of me here, and I really need to finish ahead of Jermaine for the championship. Make our way to the end of lap 18 here, and you can see that unfortunately a lot of those cars with penalties out in front, I'm trying to remember everyone that had them. Dustin, I think, has them. Phil has one. Anto has one. Ryan has one, but he's kind of, I think, backed out of this race a little bit now. So, yeah, all of these drivers who have penalties out in front, they are a little bit too far out in front to really have those penalties make a difference. And subsequently, I think P8 is probably the best I'm going to be able to get here today as we make our way onto the end of lap 19 and begin the final lap of the race. Jermaine is 1.2 seconds down on us currently, so yeah, he is catching us, but I don't know if he's catching us quite quickly enough to really make a difference here today. So yeah, as long as with the DRS he isn't super overpowered, we should have this finish in the bag. But I mean, ideally I would have wanted to have finished more than one position ahead of Jermaine to close that gap a little bit. A 9-point gap to overcome in 3 races. I would need to have done more than this. Make our way through the end of the final lap, and as we round the final few corners here, you're going to see who's winning the race today. It is Alex from P12 on the grid. What a result for the Ferrari driver. And now we're going to come around the final corner. Jermaine ultimately just did not get close enough to us to have this happen on this occasion. We're going to cross the line to take P8 on track. However, Illyrian, who did finish P3 on track, ended up having 10 seconds of penalties applied for incidents that happened in the race, which means that I end up getting promoted from P8 to P7, and actually Jermaine also got a 5-second penalty in the race, which means that he stays P9, and ultimately that means that there is a 4-point gap between myself and Jermaine in favour of myself. So we've closed the gap to him in the championship to just 5 points now, which is great to see. But meanwhile, here we are. Here's Alex making his way onto the podium. It's Lewis in P2. That battle still raging on for the championship title between those two drivers. I think Lewis is leading at the moment, but Alex will have closed the gap a little bit as a result of that. And you see Illyrian on the podium here, but with penalties applied and removed to certain drivers, Illyrian ended up getting demoted, like I said, to P8. Anto was actually the driver who got promoted to P3. Another stealth podium for my teammate there, and pretty good result. So the end result, when it comes to what actually happened, it was Alex and Lewis, but then it was Anto, Bjarni, Phil, Dustin, myself, Illyrian, Jermaine, and Mike got promoted to P10, scoring his first points of the season after Ollie ended up taking a few penalties for other incidents that happened in the race. Ryan was classified, though he didn't finish the race, and Jermaine, RC, KK, Ryan, and Hayden all DNF'd from the race. So yeah, ultimately a decent race for myself, another 6 points on the board, and hopefully we can continue a strong run of form in Bahrain. But that is going to be it for this video, so if you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.